Thank you both. You're very busy. We appreciate both your support for the event and for joining. Let's get some context first. I think the origin of this idea was yours, David. You came to us and said, should we do an event? What is it? Why did you come to us, and what do you want to get from sponsorship today?
I think we've been in a lot of boardrooms at brokers and insurers, and there's a common theme around technology, digitalisation, transformation, innovation, kind of whatever hat you want to put on it. And that is largely, we have the people, we have the technology, and that technology is an incremental cost on the overall performance of the business. So it's not driving efficiency, it's not driving increased performance, it's just adding cost to us. Whereas I think probably started about 3 years ago, but it's just continuing to accelerate, and maybe over the last 6 months it's got even faster, is that the realization that we're at a tipping point. People believe in the standardization, people believe that the technology can prove value both in efficiency and the availability of data for better decision making and things like that. So to be able to get the ecosystem in a room, many of the players that are going to be making the decisions and driving the wheels of change, that's really exciting for us. And obviously we get to try and talk to them while they're here as well.
Well, we have beers and pizza. Steve, what would the PPL like to get from today?
Well, firstly, I might congratulate David on his appointment to CEO of PPL as well, but I was going to congratulate you, Robin, on congregating 300 Scotsmen and women in a room together, because surely there isn't an Englishman or woman in the room, right? There can't be. Something going on tonight, I guess. For us, and I think if you look at these things, the opportunity to look for clusters in terms of what are the successful ingredients of modernization in other financial services industries. There's clustering, right? People come together from different parts of the cluster to talk and discuss. So an opportunity to sponsor something like this, to get together, particularly for us, our customers, the carriers, the brokers, and have an opportunity to talk and think about where we are on our journey, where we're trying to get to, is a wonderful opportunity. So we're very glad to be here and glad to be a sponsor.
Thank you for joining us. So at the start of the year, the two organisations announced a partnership. To use your own words, it's a multi-year partnership in which you'll work together to accelerate delivery of a fully integrated digital trading experience. Who approached whom? David, tell us, how did this come about?
We approached Steve. I think that was Martin, our chairman, kindly set up that conversation, and then Steve set us through, introduced us to Joe, and subsequently John. And it's been great, all the conversations we've been having with PPL since that first interaction. In terms of why we did it, we have got a contract builder that digitizes and structures the data of a submission, so a true data-first approach at the start of the process. I think if you go to any conference maybe of the last 2 years, almost all of the vendors and the exhibitors there are trying to fix data ingestion. That is kind of a big problem that everyone faces. Whereas we kind of believe that that's a giant sticking plaster, and that isn't the cure. The cure is very much you go earlier on in the process and you fix it at the start, and then you have clean, digitized, structured data that can flow all the way through the system. Our way of solving that was our digital contract builder or submission builder. We saw some fantastic results with that. So 50% reduction in the time taken to create the submission, 75% reduction in the time taken to transfer from an MRCV2 to an MRVC3, and it went from 0 to 4 billion in premium on the platform within the first 9 months. However, we very much don't have the market penetration that PPL have. That I think 80% of the market share that is on PPL platform at the moment, and whilst we're an ambitious scale-up, we are still a scale-up. So you go to the person that has the 80% market share, and you try and persuade them of the benefits of this new partnership that makes this tooling available to the majority of the market.
And quickly, how do you work together? I imagine your contract builder sits at the front, enables a broker to load up a structured contract, which then that sort of thing falls into PPL?
Well, absolutely, and it's fully baked into PPL. The broker then has that clean data set that they can share with whomever that they choose.
Steve, you've got a partner in artificial and a very valuable one at that. That can't be the only partner you're after. What's the PPL partnership strategy? Who else would you like to work with?
Thank you. That's right. So in fact, before David called and Martin called, We'd done some strategic work at PPL looking at our future and what we were trying to do as an organisation. I guess partly with the backdrop of the implementation of Next Gen and the challenges that we had out of that move and really where we were headed as an organisation. I should say Bronick, my predecessor as chairman of PPL, initiated that work, and I sort of landed in the middle of it and partnered with him in that regard. And as I said earlier, one of the things that I'd identified is successful financial services modernisation and digitalisation has often had the common ingredient of partnerships with small, niche specialists who create functionality and capability in an innovative and entrepreneurial way, as well as giants who bring scale, expertise, often funding and other things. So we identified that finding partners was very much going to be part of our go-forward strategy. Conveniently and coincidentally, a conversation was initiated by Martin Rees and David to start that, and then we go through a diligence process. But very much we see PPL's future as being a place where we can identify organisations such as Artificial and similar, as well as other organisations who can bring value and give us that capability to really be the home of the opportunity that digitalisation offers us.
I'm going to take a big risk now and say that you and I are both old-timers.
Oh.
Can I do that?
You can.
We're both looking very good on it, but we are old-timers whether we like it or not. As a result of sort of 20 years of being in and around this space, we've seen a few false dawns before. What is it? Does it feel different this time round, and what is it you think kind of gives us some sort of sense of momentum this time?
Yeah, it has been a long time. So I started in 1989. I used to be one of the youngest people in the room, and I've turned out to be one of the oldest in the room. But as you say, we've seen false dawns before, false horizons even, along the way, and a lot of money spent and a lot of effort along the way as well. But it really, really does feel that we are on the cusp of something significant now. And look at the talent in the room and the companies represented in the room, big and small, and the resource, effort, intellect that's being put to sort of developing this opportunity for us. It's not a straight line, as recent events have shown, even in PPL's recent history. There are huge challenges in terms of what we are trying to do as an industry and huge opportunities that come from that. But for me, it certainly feels like we're at a defining moment for our industry. Maybe in some ways looking for positives from the horror of the pandemic, even some things that happened during the pandemic, of which PPL had a role, I would say, that allowed our market to operate. But we also should recognize that a lot of what we've been doing recently, I think, has been a retrospective placement activity, and actually our opportunity in partnering with David and his firm is an opportunity to actually pivot that even further and properly have a data-first opportunity and the downstream benefits that come out of that. So yes, I believe we are on the cusp, finally.
Are you seeing the same thing? I mean, are there any science you can put behind metrics that suggest that there's a sort of gradually building momentum that's going to be unstoppable?
I think anecdotally we're seeing the enthusiasm that comes between the various stakeholders in the ecosystem is just increasing, and the willingness to work together. So rewind 12 months and it was a case of underwriters saying which brokers will play nicely with us and which brokers can send the data via API, and vice versa, brokers saying who can respond in the way that we would like them to, and that type of thing. Whereas I think now more often than not, when we're in those conversations, the counterparties are saying to us, we've already had conversations, we're already on the same page, we've already discussed Blueprint 2, CDR, MRCV3, a skinny data set, and a number of stakeholders come to us saying we already have some of the component parts and we just want to partner with a few more people to execute it. And yeah, that's only increased over recent months.
We do the community of the curious, and we, again, anecdotally, but you can see there are more and more curious people, by which I mean they want to know what other people are doing, they want to know who they should be talking to. Steve, have you got stats that you can support of the momentum idea?
Yes, we've got a lot of stats, actually. So PPL currently has about 2 million transactions that it's responsible for on an annualized basis, about 200,000 policies. on average, 3.5 adjustments on each line, and through that 2 million, on average, 2 million transactions. And what we're seeing, as I said, is a movement away from when that is actually happening in the process and coming closer to where we would want it to happen in the process. So we have a lot of evidence to support the anecdotes, which we also hear.
Because David, at Artificial, you also have an algorithmic trading capability, and you provide your clients who want that with the ability to assess a risk, profile a risk, and work out algorithmically or whether they want to do it, whether it fits within profile. How does that capability fit with the PPL? Is that going to be part of what you do together?
So, for people that don't know, the artificial underwriting platform, you codify your appetite. You can then rapidly make a fully informed underwriting decision, everything from TOBA, clearance, enrichment, exposure management, pricing, the whole lot. And then that submission is fully assessed, but then put in the context of a target portfolio. And then the data that we see to support that is kind of a 75% reduction in the time to go from receiving the submission to making a decision. Now, a big sticking plaster in that process, though, is that if that submission arrives via email, even if we, through some of the fantastic data team are here tonight, even if we go through a very efficient process of working out where in the body of the email, where in the SOV, where in the MRC these data points are, present it to the user with the confidence levels, and it's a 2 to 5 minute process to confirm that these data points are accurate, that is still a pain. Nobody wants to do that. That is a blight on the day of everybody that has to do it. And the percentage of submissions that are in the market and that are shared via API, the higher that percentage is, the better for everybody. The broker's got more insight, the broker response is faster, the number of data points that are collected and analysed, and therefore, finally, the customer is getting the coverage, exactly the coverage they need, rapidly at an accurate price. So back to the point of the question, is the partnership with PPL realises more submissions existing in this right state that can be shared via API and is improving and providing benefits for the whole ecosystem.
Thank you. And then, Steve, what is the PPL working on? Is there stuff we can expect 2024-25 that's in progress?
For sure. As I said earlier, the model of identifying organisations that we can partner with is active. We continue to look at various business cases in that regard, so you'll expect some further announcements from us in that regard later in the year as we move through proof points in terms of capability and due diligence around those partners. So yes, much more to come. But I'm not going to announce anything today.
Oh, I was waiting for a world exclusive. We already had one of those this week. David, I'll give you one shot to be unrelentingly self-promotional. What would be the one point you'd like to leave the audience with? Something they take away from here and go, I never knew that. How cool.
So I don't think one player is large enough to change the London market on their own. So we're massive advocates of partnerships and playing nicely with others on a day-to-day basis.
Nice to hear. Steve, have you got a little ditty for us?
I've got an anecdote. I'm a broker. Am I allowed one?
For sure.
Thank you. So as you pointed out, I go back a while. So I actually started in 1989. This is when I first became a broker at a firm called Sedgwick. And someone remember Sedgwick, please. Thank you. Thanks, James. They got acquired by Marsh McLennan some years later. And at that moment, there was a chairman, a chap called Sachs Riley. You might remember Sachs. Sachs became chairman of Lloyd's as well at a pivotal moment, so 9/11, and actually was involved in delivering through the corporate capital opportunity that Lloyd's needed at that point. And I found a little quote which I thought was relevant, if you'd indulge me with that as well. So quoting a famous politician, Sachs said, "He who rejects change is the architect of decay. The only human institution which rejects progress is the cemetery. And I don't know about you, but I'm still too young for that." And I'm starting to recognize his words a little bit. But my point is, echoing what David said entirely. One of the benefits, and you asked me right at the start, why did we do this? Why do we sponsor this? The opportunity actually to continue momentum, to keep people motivated as we go through the inevitable challenges that go with the biggest transformation our market has ever seen, requires all of us to advocate. And I'd really like to find a way that you can all do that. There's still a lot of loose cannons with the keyboard warriors on LinkedIn, all of whom seem to have lots of opinion. We have fact. We have fact. So the opportunity for you to help shape the future, please continue. That would be what I'd want.
Great stuff. I'm going to show my moderating skills by ending on exactly the right time. And I'm going to hand over to Tom Arnold. And in the meantime, thank you very, very much indeed, both of you. Really a pleasure.
Thank you very much.